Hello everyone, a very good morning to all of you. I formally welcome all of you to the online session. Before we start with the session, let me just quickly outline what is it that we are likely to cover in this session today. First and foremost, we will start with MBA and the various B schools and what are the various percentiles and cutoffs that are going to be required for the admissions into these schools. Can we all see the slide which refers various specializations and MBAs and various tests? Okay, great. So these are the key areas that we are likely to follow today. First is about MBA and specializations. We'll discuss what all various tests are there, what are we schools to apply for, eligibility criteria for different schools, and how Bullseye is going to help you get through to your desired college. Okay, first and foremost, what I would like to ask you guys is, why do you guys want to pursue an MBA? Why do you wish to pursue an MBA? What is it that we are looking for from an MBA course? Okay, Kanishka mentions to get a great career. I would like to ask you, Kanishka, what do we exactly mean by a great career? A professional in management. Definitely great. To make money is what Mehak says. Fantastic. To boast my career is what Arun says. Okay, primarily, how do you think an MBA is going to help you with that? What is it that an MBA provides and the other courses do not? Why is it such an important course in the modern scenario? To explore your own skills is what Hitesh is saying. As we can see even in this slide, an MBA helps to develop priceless managerial skills, which is something that most of the courses do not offer. And to thrive in a business world, to thrive in a fast-paced business world, managerial skills is what we are likely to need. Definitely yes, to take up challenging roles, get into the management sector, and various other such factors. Now, first question that I would like to ask you guys is it better to opt for a specialized course in an MBA or for if you are very sure, or is it okay to opt for a general MBA to start with? What do you guys think? Okay, I see a lot of responses which mention specialized. Well, I would say that we should go for specialized course only and only if we are very sure of what we are pursuing, which may not be the case with everyone. For many of us, it is more like exploring ourselves, and in that case, opting for a general MBA is the way to go. And another important thing to be taken care of is that some of the institutes are going to offer you a diploma. It will not be a degree per se, but then we need not be worried about that. It makes no difference in terms of your employment opportunities, right? And another thing is, do not get into a college which is not even AICTE approved. Now, these are the various specializations we can opt for. Marketing and finance. Marketing and finance make up almost 70 to 80% of all the courses. Most of the people are going to pursue an MBA in marketing and finance. This is what the trend has been so far. Then about 20 to 25% of the courses or the MBA graduates opt for NHR, systems, IT or operations combined, and various other small courses like rural management, etc. As talking about the work area, for marketing it is about sales, advertisement, marketing and brand management. Finance, it's about retail banking, people who get into banks belong to the specialization in finance. HR is about recruitment, labor laws, working conditions, and how to retain people and employees. Another thing is that some of us may have very specific choices in terms of the organizations we wish to work for. If that is the case, we must always do a background check and make sure that the campuses that we are opting for, the companies do visit those campuses. If the companies do not visit those campuses, then it does not make sense to actually opt for those colleges. So in case you are very, very sure of the company that you are going to apply for, say you wish to work for Ernst & Young, EY, then you need to be very, very sure that the company visits the campus. You must do your background checks accordingly. Now, another important factor is a question which most of us are likely to face is the quality of the institute more important, or is it like the course that I wish to apply for? What do you guys think is more important? The quality of the institute or the course that I wish to pursue? These are some of the basics that we need to be very, very aware of while starting out. Anyone? A lot of the people are saying quality of the institute. Rightly so. May I know why? Why do you guys think that is? Why quality of the institute is very, very important? Max says MBA is all about branding. Okay. That's in case you wish to opt for marketing, right? Brand value of the institute, better placements. higher the quality, better placements. Better placements is definitely one of the reasons. Another important reason for it is that where an MBA course is different from other courses is in terms of peer learning. An MBA course is not going to be like any other course wherein you will be taking a lot of classes. It's not that. It's more about peer learning, how you learn with peers, how you grow with them, and it depends a lot on the kind of people you associate with, the kind of networking you do throughout the college, and that is where the alumni network of the college can really help you grow as a person and offer you better employment opportunities. So irrespective of the course that you pick, if you get the course of your choice, great. If not, even then, always ideally you should opt for the a better quality college so that the peer learning is more. Practical skills, definitely. Exposure is another area. Specializations we've talked about. We've also discussed organization in which one lands up for the job. Okay, these are some of the major tests in India. CAT, I think everyone is aware of. CAT, IIMs and a lot of other institutes, A-grade institutes take CAT scores. XAT is another important exam, one of the toughest in India for XLRI, Jamshedpur and the other colleges like that. MAT, SNAP for Symbiosis colleges, 14 colleges under SNAP. CMAT and NMAT. NMAT for Nasi Monji Institute. Survi is asking for HR, XLRI or IIMs. See, IIMs are definitely going to be good in everything, but specifically for HR, there's nothing better than XLRI Jamshedpur in India. And another important college for HR becomes TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, right? Okay, there are certain exams which certain colleges which conduct their own exams. For example, IIFT. IIFT has two campuses in Delhi and in Kolkata. A great college for international trade if someone really wishes to pursue an MBA in international trade. TISNET, as I mentioned, a great college for HR. MICA, Mudra Institute of Communication, Ahmedabad, one of the premier colleges in India, now conducts its own exam. Okay, Dinesh is asking, what about taking a finance for someone who does not have any finance background? It is absolutely fine. Only thing is that you will need to work a little harder. But there is no reason that with hard work, you will not be able to do well in this course. Absolutely, you can take it up. Okay, here is the eligibility area. I think most of us must be aware. Most of the colleges require you to have a 50% aggregate score. 50% aggregate score in your graduation. Good academics, good past record always gives you an additional advantage over the others. In case the academics are great, it will give you additional advantage. Even if that is not the case, it is something we cannot do much about. All we need to ensure is a good graduation score. 50% is the eligibility criteria. Okay, this is how the colleges are rated. There are certain A+ colleges which includes all the IIMs, colleges like FMS. 100% placement, students generally get 1 to 2 job offers per student, which is, and average salary ranges from 14 to 18 lakhs, which is a great start to your career. Then the second run colleges are A colleges. Average salary ranges from 10 to 12 lakh rupees. Then there are B+ colleges where the average salary would be around 5 to 6 lakh rupees. A decent start to your career. This is the least we should target while starting out for CAT. Then B colleges, salary 4 lakhs per annum gives you a push. Then maybe after a few years of experience, you can really start to make those big bucks. Nitin is asking, Nasi Monji falls in A+ or A category. Nitin, Nasi Monji would fall in A category. But then that really does not make much of a difference, because at the end of the day, if you're getting into a good college with the skills, maybe an year or two of experience, you get to the same level. These are various B schools hierarchy. This is only an indicative list, not a comprehensive list. Colleges, as I mentioned, like IIMs, XLRI, FMS, these are all new, A+ colleges. As it is mentioned here in the PPT also, NMIMS, which is Nasi Monji, is an A college. UBS sector-specific colleges are NITI, MICA and IRMA. IRMA is for rural management, in case someone wishes to pursue a specific course in that. Okay, Sushant is asking, how about Nasi Monji as far as HR is concerned? Sushant, as far as HR is concerned, you should actually be targeting XAT for XLRI Jamshedpur. Then the second option should ideally be TISNET. Beyond that, I think then maybe you can think of Nasi Monji. IIT Mumbai is a good college, decent college, but then while starting out, we should be looking out for colleges like IIMs. For most of the top-notch colleges, the date for applying is well before the respective examination date. That is, if the CAT is there, जो टॉप नॉच कॉलेजेस हैं उनमें it will be prior to the examination date. But for B or B plus colleges, once you're done with the exam, the results are out, you can still apply to those colleges based on your percentile. We should not always go out all out while applying to colleges, because what happens is it's a very costly process. Every college costs a lot. So based on a percentile, only then we should pick out colleges, and based on the places we think are feasible for us. Now this is about what is the selection process. Stage 1 is a written test, which is like CAT, XAT, various other exams. It will be a written test wherein your academics are checked, your abilities like verbal ability, quantitative and reasoning sections are tested. Stage 2 is a GD or a VAT or a case study or an extempore and then a personal interview. One thing to be noted here is that in most of the IIMs have done away with the GD and have now started going for a written ability test. Can we really guess that why is this change in the trend? Why is this happening? Why are the IIMs doing away with the group discussion and now focusing on or rather conducting written ability tests? What do you guys think can be a reason for this? Okay, Dhruv is saying GD cannot show the whole potential of a student. Well, Dhruv, yes, Preeti is mentioning a very relevant thing, that we cannot bluff when we write. What happens in a GD is that maybe 10 or 15 years back, a lot of us did not have very good communication skills. But the scenario has changed over the years. A lot of the students these days have no real problem while communicating in English or have very good communication skills. So the function of a GD as a filtering process gets defeated. What then happens is that most of the students are at the same level, and then someone who is very shy, who's shy by nature, is likely to be overshadowed by people who are more vocal. So even if the person has good content and good knowledge, he may not be able to do well. That is why the IIMs have started conducting a written ability test and done away with GD. Yes, Nitin is again mentioning a very good point. What we end up doing is take points from people or our colleagues in a group discussion. Another thing is your content knowledge is checked better in a written ability test, and your structuring of thoughts, how do you structure your thoughts, what is the reasoning you use, is better checked in a written ability test. It is likely that more and more colleges are likely to move over to a written ability test vis-a-vis group discussion. And then various institutes have their own structure of the GDPI stage with different weightages given depending on the college you apply for. Yes, Nitin is mentioning again a very relevant point. Durgesh, yes, a written ability test consists of an essay writing, could be a factual essay, could be an abstract essay, depending on the college you are applying for. This is how it is primarily for most of the colleges. Weightage of approximately 70% is given to the written test, and then the GDPI stage is given a weightage of approximately 30%, but it may vary from college to college. This is not a very comprehensive thing, but then yes, this is what the overview is. Okay, this is actually the structure of the test. Verbal ability and logical reasoning will be tested. Quantitative aptitude. Then there is data interpretation and reasoning. Essay writing, as I mentioned, some of the colleges or exams like XAT do conduct an essay writing. Then general awareness. One of the things that most of us as students miss out on is prepping ourselves for general awareness. One thing which is very, very important to understand is that we are going to enter into the management world. And for a manager, it is very, very important that we are aware of the happenings around us. So being in touch with the general issues is very, very important. What happens is that apart from exams like CAT and XAT, NMAT, most of the other exams will conduct a test on GK as well. The importance of reading newspapers cannot be negated. It is very, very important to read newspapers daily, and while reading newspapers, it is important to know what to focus on. The scenario has again changed from maybe over the last 15 years, wherein earlier what used to happen was that you could impress people with facts, but now facts are not relevant anymore, because with Google coming in, anyone can get to the facts with a click of a button. What has now become very, very important is that you have substantial views. Why do we need substantial views? Because it reflects your maturity, it reflects how do you go about your thought process. For example, to highlight this point, suppose someone asks you that there's an issue on Niti Aayog. Why did the Niti Aayog replace the Planning Commission of India? Now, I cannot impress in today's world by explaining to someone or mentioning to someone who is the chairman of Niti Aayog. That becomes largely irrelevant. What has now become very important is that what is it that the Niti Aayog is doing differently vis-a-vis the Planning Commission of India? What is it that enforced a change in the government's strategy? These are the questions that have become more relevant, and hence we must now look for substantial views. Okay, suggestions for the newspaper to be chosen. Well, if you've not been reading anything at all of late, pick any newspaper for about 10 to 15 days. Once you start to get comfortable with reading, then maybe go on to a newspaper like the Hindu. The idea is to ensure that in communication in newspapers, the challenge must always be there for you. If you get your challenge in a normal newspaper like the Tribune, it is perfectly fine. However, if you are too comfortable reading these newspapers, then you must go on to the Hindu. Okay, Arun is asking how much time one should spend on newspapers. Ideally, it should be an hour a day. Basically, the important question is that when I read a newspaper, what is it that I need to read? What do you guys think? What is important while reading a newspaper? What do we read as of now? I'm sure most of us read the sports page. Okay, Mehak and Arun, Abhishek, most of us will answer editorials. That is the standard answer. Definitely, yes. Editorials it is. The question is why? Why editorials? What is it that I get from an editorial and not from the other pages? Business page is another answer, a very good answer. Why do we need to read editorials? I'm waiting for responses, guys. Helps to develop opinion, critical views of the author, opinions, perspective, different subjects. Great. First and foremost, it is very important for us to realize if we've been reading newspapers and editorials in them, what are the kind of people or who are the kind of authors who write these editorials? What is their background? Anyone? The background of the people who write columns in editorials. Preeti is saying well versed in the subject. Absolutely correct. What happens is that suppose there is an issue like a triple talaq. What you and I think on an issue like triple talaq may be largely irrelevant because we do not have that wealth of knowledge on the subject. However, someone who's been following the issue for maybe 20 years, 25 years knows the inside out of the story. So when he mentions something that has the solid background of it, and when I read that, I start to form a perspective. I start to form a solid line of thought, and that is something that will not be developed overnight. It is something that is developed over a period of time. When I've read a lot of various issues, suppose there is an issue like an issue on poverty. So now an issue on poverty will give me certain ideas as to what are the various challenges that the country is facing on an issue like that. But and once I've read an article or two on that, I start to get the basic idea, and then I can relate to various other issues like women empowerment, etc. Also, what happens is that once I start to read editorials for say maybe a period of 1 month or 2 months, I then start to get deep down into the very basics of how to think about things. What happens is, in a case of a GD or a PI, when you are asked to formulate your opinions, you must realize that they are not testing your communication skills over there. What is actually being tested over there is your maturity. So when you are asked about your opinion and you end up giving an answer that is not very well founded, as in you do not really have a logical reasoning for that, then you come across as someone who is not very mature. But in case of the management colleges, they are looking for people who are very mature. So editorials are the tests that help you develop the maturity, and that will not come overnight. We will have to work for it. Editorials are definitely a yes. We must go through editorials almost every day. Another important page is the business page. Why do you guys think business page is very relevant for an MBA aspirant? I'm waiting for responses, guys. Exactly. Someone is mentioning that is the work we do. Business becomes very, very relevant for us because it is the area we're going to enter in. So if we know much more about how the industry works, how the GDP or the economy works, we have a better understanding of that. It definitely gives us an edge. Now getting back to the question, what else is more relevant for us as far as the newspaper is concerned? What else becomes important? The front page for starters becomes very, very important because we must be aware of what is happening day in and day out, and the front page will give you an idea of that. Another thing, if we have time, we must also look at the world news. What is happening in China, what is happening in North Korea, those things become relevant when we talk of a broader perspective. Whereas what is happening in your local areas is no more relevant for you. So I would suggest not to invest time in things like that, or too much of your time in an entertainment, on an entertainment news page or a sports page. That becomes less and less relevant as we prepare for CAT. Are we clear with what to read in the newspapers? Arun is mentioning magazines. Magazines, yes, definitely yes, if you have time. Definitely magazines, but you also must consider novels, which we'll discuss in a little while. What is the importance of reading novels as far as CAT or the other MBA exams are concerned? Right? Let's move on. I think most of us are now aware that the CAT is an online exam. Since 2009, it is an online exam. And the test is conducted either in November or December. Most of the exams are going to be conducted in that very same period. The results are likely to be out by January or February, and then the process of the group discussions and personal interviews, written ability tests starts over the period of the next 2-3 months, and then we finally get into our sessions or the colleges by mid of June or July. Okay, now something which is very, very important: CAT exam strategy. We all know the 3 sections that are going to be there in CAT. One is the quantitative aptitude, then there is a section on data interpretation and logical reasoning, and then the section on verbal ability. Now, as I am a verbal faculty, let me just try and discuss with you guys the strategy for verbal in detail. Are we aware of the question pattern in the verbal section of the CAT? How many number of questions are there in the verbal section of the CAT? Let us just quickly review the strategy or view the strategy. Almost everyone is mentioning 34. Great. Yes, 34 questions in the verbal section, out of which 24 questions will be reading comprehensions, which will be, each question will have 5 options, out of which only 1 is correct. Now, these questions will also have negative marking. What else is there apart from the reading comprehension section in CAT verbal? Sushant and Akshay have mentioned very correctly 24 RCs. What else is there? Parajumbles. Okay, yes, great. Sentence rearrangement questions. 5 questions generally on sentence rearrangement. These questions are not likely to have any options. So there is no negative marking as well. Dinesh, verbal reasoning has not been coming in the CAT for the last 2 years. So it's no longer a part of the CAT. Then yes, odd one out, a couple of questions on odd one out, and then a couple of questions, or maybe 3 questions, which are summary based. Now, if we realize that out of 34, 24 questions are reading comprehensions, so it very well underlines the point that reading comprehension questions are going to be the game changer. As far as the sentence rearrangement questions go, what happens is that there paragraph is there, and the 5 sentences in the paragraph are jumbled up, and you are supposed to rearrange them in the original order. How many number of combinations are possible if there are no options given? How many combinations are possible for 5 sentences? Hitesh, yes, there may be changes, but the notification is likely to be out maybe in another 15 days or so. 5 factorial, which is 120 combinations. So if we see there are 120 combinations, even if I apply my knowledge to the best of my abilities, I can still only zone it down to maybe 10 good combinations. And then out of those 10 combinations, to pick the one that is the right one is still an uphill task. So we always suggest that if there are no options to a sentence rearrangement question, we should not be spending too much time on a sentence rearrangement question. It is not advisable. Maybe a couple of minutes for all the questions, and quickly just skim through the questions. Summary based questions, yes, definitely attemptable, doable. Odd one out is again doable. What this leaves us with, ideally you should not spend more than 10 minutes over these 10 questions, which are sentence rearrangement and odd one out, which leaves us with 24 RC questions in around 50 minutes. No negative marking for questions where there is no options provided. Right. Now we'll have to work on the RC questions. When we talk of the 24 RC questions, it is always advisable, since it is going to be a game changer, the RC section. Do not attempt the RCs in the last 5 minutes of the exam, because it is more of an understanding thing, requires a candidate to be relaxed. Whenever we start to attempt the questions in the last 5 minutes, generally students tend to get it wrong. because under the time pressure we tend to mark options that are closed, that are the traps laid by the test setter. And then if we talk about the first 5 minutes, ideally we are not in the exam mode in the first 5 minutes. So the strategy should ideally be first 5 minutes attempt the 3 summary based questions, a couple of odd one out questions wherein I start to get into the exam mode, exam zone. Then in the middle 50 minutes I give my all to RC questions, and then quickly in the last 5 minutes I attempt the 5 sentence rearrangement questions to maximize or optimize my score. This is something we can do, or a technique we can employ. Now another very important thing is decision making. The questions will always be it CAT or be it any other exam, the question in the verbal section or even in the quant section will always ask you to pick the more appropriate option. There are no right and wrong answers. If the most appropriate option or the answer is actually not present, the other option may be the answer. So it's about decision making that is being checked. Do not always look for the pitch perfect answers. I hope I've made myself clear. Dhruv, I think I've answered your question for maximum time for one rearrangement. Okay. Then time management, yes, we've discussed a little bit of a strategy. I'm sure the quant faculty will discuss the strategy with you guys over the course of the lectures. Priority is to be set. When we talk of priority, some of us may not realize that which questions are to be picked up. For example, say I'm not very good at geometry. Then the moment I come across a circle in the exam, I know I may not be able to attempt this question or score very well in this question. So we should not be spending too much time in the first go. Ideally, I would just zoom past that question and spend more time on questions on topics which I'm more comfortable with. So that is how I need to set priorities. First attempt, just attempt all the questions which are easy, which are scoring. Then maybe in the second attempt, the questions that I would have marked. And then if time permits, which is rarely the case, I go in for a third attempt, wherein I pick up questions which are more difficult to handle. You need to make trade-offs. We'll discuss about that in a little detail when we discuss the strategy for RC in detail. Handling stress becomes very important. Let's move on. Okay, this is something we did discuss: personal interviews, VAT, group tasks. Some of the colleges may give you various group tasks. Quizzed on topics. Again, when we talk of personal interviews, you are expected to be aware of yourself and aware of the world around you. So you also need to work on yourself, your strengths and weaknesses. We must always try and notice that what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, because come the GDPI rounds, these questions start to gain a lot more weightage, and someone who comes across as very self-aware stands a better chance than someone who does not. Okay, as we mentioned, skills the B schools are looking for. One of the things which is very important and relevant, the very first point in the slide, clarity of goal. What happens while preparing or while starting out for CAT, a lot of us do not have a very clear-cut clarity of goal, which is okay for now, which is okay. But when I get to a personal interview stage, I must make sure that I come across as someone who is very clear about the path he's taking, about where he wants to go in his life. And then all I need to do is to show that the MBA or the college that I'm applying for is a step in that goal. It's not the objective, it is a step, it is a process that is going to lead me to where I wish to go. That clarity has to be there while actually appearing for a personal interview. And in case we have a clarity right now, it helps as a great motivating factor. So I would suggest you guys to spend a little bit more time on realizing that why do you want to do an MBA. Get that clarity of goal, works as a great motivating factor. Self-awareness we did talk about. Knowledge of academics is always helpful, and in an interview it will be tested. It will be tested. A couple of favorite subjects are always to be kept in mind and worked on. Logical thinking, your attitude, definitely. And another important thing is that they are looking for a well-rounded personality. They want a jack of all trades. Master in some, great, but not necessarily. So always try and work on and project a well-rounded personality. Now this is what we expect you guys to do to be able to succeed. We cannot say that if you just attend the sessions, you're going to start scoring well. The effort and the initiative has to come from your side. There has to be regularity in attending classes, regularity in solving all the assignments, taking the tests that are advised to you, suggested to you, and make sure that whenever you take a test, you spend time, a lot more time than actually taking the test, on analyzing the test. Self-analysis is most important, and obviously the faculty will be there to help you along the way. Yes, some of us may ask that do we need to work on, a lot of us try to get our hands on extra books, extra material. I would suggest that do not pick anything extra. The Bullseye material is very, very sufficient. Let's first focus on what is being provided to us. Let's first work through that. Once we're done with that, you'll get there's ample material available to you on your dashboards. Let's just try and first work on this material. Okay, as mentioned, you need to have the right aptitude, and more importantly, you need to have the right attitude in order to succeed. So both of these things are going to be a key as far as determining your success goes. Now I will quickly take you guys through to the section which is very, very important, that is how your course is going to go through. A lot of us might be having questions, how are the lectures going to be conducted, how is the faculty going to help us. So yes, let's quickly review that. Okay, someone has asked, are the marks of 10th and plus 2 given a consideration? See, it is definitely checked, and a good scores in 10th and plus 2 is definitely an advantage. But then this is something we need not be worried about, because this is something we cannot work on. Ideally, what I would suggest is to invest your energy in something that we can do something about, which is preparing ourselves well for the exam, preparing ourselves well for the CAT, GD, PI processes, and leave the 10th and the 12th marks be. Because what happens is a lot of our energy goes in worrying about the ACADs in case they are not good. They are definitely checked, but then not the defining criteria. So we need not be worried about it. Okay, question is, will we get more questions for solving in the material when we are done solving? Definitely yes, there's a lot of material available. If you check your dashboards, let me just quickly take you guys through to how your course is going to pan out. Can we all see this window, this CAT online classroom, how you're likely how you should actually make the best use of the course? Okay, great. Now as you can see this course overview, there are two batches that are currently going on. One is the early morning batch, which is the batch which is going on now, 6:30 to 8 a.m. and another is 9:30 to 11 p.m. batch, which is Monday alternates, and the early morning batch is Tuesday alternates. Every week we'll have 3 lectures, one lecture on data interpretation and logical reasoning, one on quantitative aptitude, and one lecture on verbal ability. As far as the course contents go, we can also see that quantitative aptitude has been divided into 14 different chapters, namely the number system, percentage and profit and loss, algebra, geometry, etc., etc. Then verbal ability has similarly been divided into 11 different sections, with reading comprehension, grammar, critical reasoning forming the components. Similarly, DILR has been divided into 7 academic courses. Strategy. Now, what is this strategy? Is that apart from preparing yourself or working on the concepts, one thing which is very, very important from a management perspective is your strategy that will be checked. When I talk of strategy, it is very, very important, and you will be provided able guidance on section-wise strategy also. For example, there is a question on critical reasoning or verbal reasoning. How is it that you are likely to attempt it? What is going to help you to optimize your score? So a lot of courses will be available to you on strategy. Faculty will help you formulate your strategy. So this is again a key aspect, and something you also need to work on your own also. Then there are CAT and non-CAT test series. You'll get full length tests, you'll get sectional tests, which is very, very important, and it's very, very important that you take these tests on a regular basis in order to evaluate where you are and gradually know the areas you need to work on in order to get better. Okay, the course flow, every batch will have 3 lectures per week, as I did mention. Yes, some of us might be having doubts that for how long the course is likely to go on. This course is likely to go on for a period of approximately 4 months. Prior to taking the CAT exam, a few weeks prior to taking the CAT exam, the course is likely to be over. However, you will still have the access to your study material up to March 31, 2018, and it will also help you in preparing for other exams which are conducted a little later, exams like CSAT. Now, this is something which is very, very important, something we expect every one of us, every one of you to do prior to attending an online session. Prior to attending an online session, you will get a notification on the concept that is likely to be discussed in the next session. So ideally what you should do is to take a pre-assessment test before attending the session, which is available on your dashboard under the various tiles or the tabs available of the concepts. Take the pre-assessment test, judge your score, and then read the ebook, watch concept videos, and solve the assignments provided to you. Then there is the WhatsApp group, which most of us would have joined. What you should do is discuss doubts on WhatsApp group. The faculty will also be there to help you guys. Once you're done with this, then attend the live lecture. Whatever doubts you guys will have, the faculty is then likely to take those questions up and will be able to help you take to the next level. Otherwise, what will happen is that you guys will continue to be confused about the basic concepts if you've not done your homework, and the faculty will not be able to help you get to the next level, as a lot of the time will be spent working on the basics, which actually defeats the purpose. Then once you've attended the live lecture, then take another online test and then start discussing on the WhatsApp group in case you have any doubts, and again the faculty will be there to help you guys. Can we all see this window wherein the pre-assessment test is mentioned, curriculum for this course? Pre-assessment test, you can see there's this range. If the score is from 0 to 4, the score is likely to be average, means you really need to work hard on that concept, you need to get serious about the topic. Then if the score is from 5 to 7, the score is considered decent, but some effort is still needed. 8 to 10 is a very good score. You may not devote much time, but then yes, you must keep abreast and make yourself and make sure that you are not lagging behind in the topic. Then the sequence of academic courses, this is how it works out. You can see the various tabs. Suppose there's a tab on number system. We can all see that there are 2 e-lectures for number system. So when you click on this tab, you will come to know what all is to be solved prior to attending the first lecture. And prior to attending the second lecture, you must also make sure that you've solved all the material that is available on the site on number systems, but for the online tests which are to be taken after attending the live lectures. Then there are various topics like percentage and profit and loss, and the course follows a similar way. Okay, did I make myself clear on the number system process? As in, if you have 2 lectures, do I need to repeat it? Please respond. Okay, I'll quickly just review or repeat what I said. As we all can see that there is a tab on number system which mentions 2 e-lectures, right? When we talk of 2 e-lectures, when you click on the tab, you will see what it is that you are supposed to come done with prior to attending the lecture for the first lecture, and then prior to attending the second lecture, you need to be done with all the material that is available under the tab, and then attend the live lecture and then take online tests and discuss your doubts on the WhatsApp group. This is how the course will flow. This is what we are expected to do every week. And again, it's a very humble and sincere request to everybody that make sure you guys do your homework prior to attending a lecture, as only then the discussion in the lecture will become meaningful and will start making more sense to you. Okay, Arun is asking, how will 14 chapters be covered with 3 lectures a week? Arun, you need not worry about that. The course is likely to pan out for a period of 4 months. So you will have approximately 18 weeks, 18 to 20 weeks. So the entire course has been planned accordingly. Everything gets covered. That is something that has been taken care of. We all know the process for live lectures. There's no real need to discuss that. Are we all a part of the WhatsApp groups? The relevant WhatsApp groups? Okay. Just want to mention a few key points or the relevant points as far as the guidelines in the WhatsApp group are concerned. Someone is asking, how will we know the course structure? That will be intimated to you from time to time and will also be available to you on your dashboard. Now, as far as the guidelines on the WhatsApp group are concerned, one thing which is very important is we suggest or rather recommend that there should be no pleasantries exchanged on the WhatsApp group. No good morning, no good nights, nothing doing, only the relevant messages, only the messages for the discussion which are meaningful and are relevant. Let's just not waste everyone's time and appreciate or rather respect everyone's time, right? Another thing is the faculty available in the WhatsApp group will be able to help you or will help you only on the discussions as far as the bullseye material is concerned. Any material which is the competitors material or any other material you guys have, you may discuss it on a peer-to-peer basis with your friends and or colleagues in the group, but the Bullseye faculty may or may not help you guys with that. It is up to his discretion depending on the time available with the faculty, and it is not something we promise. Another thing is, do not have meaningless discussions in the group. It just violates the sanctity of the group. So let's just maintain that decorum and the dignity so that the group remains meaningful to everyone. Okay, another important point is the batch change process. In case you have any issues changing your batch timings or any other issues, you can always write a mail to the administration department, and then they will be able to help you guys out with that. Vishaw, if you cannot find a pre-assessment test, I'm sure the tabs will soon become active. And in case they do not, make sure you write an email to the admin department. They will sort the issue out. So is the process that the course is likely to follow clear to us? Okay, someone's asking, will the afternoon batches be there? Not something that is there right now, but yes, it may be there in the future. In the very near future, you will be intimated in case that happens. Now, there are a few things as a verbal faculty that I would like to mention to you guys. What I really wish to do is that since the time is limited, we must make sure that whatever energy we are spending or investing, the time we are investing, it is there in the right direction. When I talk of the verbal section, two things are going to be key as far as the verbal section is concerned. One is your reading habit, and another thing that you will need to work on is vocabulary, apart from solving the various exercises and the material provided to you guys. When I talk of the newspaper, we've already discussed what is to be read in the newspaper. The idea is to develop habits to start off with. It is very easy to work for a couple of days at full throttle and then lag behind and lose motivation. The idea is to get into the right habits, maybe a little less time to start off with, and gradually increasing the number of hours you are putting in. But what is very important is to make it a habit. The consistency is what will be the determining factor. First and foremost, ideally you should not be working on tricks. We should just be working on the fundamentals. Work on the fundamentals, and then when you start to feel very comfortable with the fundamentals, then maybe the tricks. Again, the same thing applies. If you've done your homework, the faculty can help you with various tricks. If you've not done your homework, the discussion starts becoming rather irrelevant or meaningless, and the faculty will not be able to really help you get to the next level. Okay, the process is not clear to someone. We will discuss, Dhruv, how we can work on our vocab. Let me just take up this question. Someone is mentioning the process is not very clear. What the process is this: you will be intimated of the topic to be covered in the next lecture, approximately 4 to 5 days prior to the lecture. Then what you should do is take a pre-assessment test on the lecture that will be available on your dashboard. Once you've taken the pre-assessment test, judged your score, then go on to the ebook, read the concept, watch video lectures available to you on the dashboard, and solve assignments. Solve them thoroughly. Then whatever doubts you have, discuss them on the WhatsApp group. It could be a peer-to-peer discussion, and the faculty will always be there to help you guys out with that. Once you've done this, then the next thing to do is after that you come to the live lecture and take up various doubts and ask the faculty to take you guys to the next level, help you guys maximize your potential in that aspect. Once the live lecture is attended, then you again go back and take the online tests and then analyze and work on solving various other assignments. And again, the faculty will be available to help you guys on the WhatsApp group. This is how the course is likely to follow. Suppose there are 2 lectures on number system, and once the lectures are delivered, this faculty will be available with you guys on the WhatsApp group, will be able to help and guide you guys accordingly. Okay, Durgesh, I'll take up your question as well. This is what we were going to discuss. The question is, how can we work on our vocab? As far as working on the vocab is concerned, I'd like to ask you guys, what is the biggest challenge we face as far as working on vocab is concerned? Suppose I discuss 10 new words with you guys today, and we meet again for the next lecture maybe a week later. What is the biggest challenge? How many of the words will you guys be able to recall? Okay, Surbhi is again asking a very relevant question, that classroom won't build basics. Surbhi, the idea is that you guys need to be doing your homework prior to attending the lecture. In case you have problems, there are basics that are not very clear to you, the faculty will definitely help you build basics as well. But we cannot expect to be not be doing our homework and just get into the session and then start to ask very basic questions which could easily have been handled by ourselves looking at the various video lectures, etc. However, if something is not very clear to you, even after you've done your homework, the faculty will definitely make it a point to make sure that the basics are in place. That is not the idea that the basics will not be taken care of. The basics will definitely be taken care of. You may rest assured on that as well. Okay, Preeti is saying she'll be able to recall 7 words. Some are saying 2 to 3, 4 to 5 again. Yes, basically what happens is that the biggest problem as far as vocabulary is concerned is being able to recall the words I've visited. What happens is I start to get the feeling that I've seen the word before, but I'm not able to recall what it actually means. Bullseye will also provide you with various material as far as the word lists are concerned, and a lot of material as far as the words are concerned. But something that has to be done on your end is to try and revisit the words on a regular basis. Suppose I discuss 10 words with you guys in class today. Those 10 words need to be revisited frequently enough for them to become a part of your vocabulary. One of the best techniques that I find, apart from going through the material, is that while reading the newspaper, we are all going to read newspapers, we are all going to read novels. While reading the newspapers, it is very clear to me that in a paragraph or maybe a paragraph or two, I do not know all the words. What I can do is I can start to underline the words while reading, the meanings of which I do not know. Once I'm done with reading, I pick any 3 words, note down their meanings, check the meanings, note them down, along with the context or the sentence that they've been used in. Once I've done that, it's hardly going to take 10 to 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a max for a very slow person also. Then all I need to do is to just go through those 3 words once or twice a day. Once you do this for a period of 6 to 7 days, those 3 words then become a part of your vocabulary. You're not likely to forget those 3 words then. You do this for a period of 15 days, you're done with 40 to 45 good words. Once we're done with approximately 40 to 45 good words, you start to notice the interesting thing. The same kind of words start to get repeated. The same words are being used in newspapers, in reading comprehensions, articles, journals. Since I do not know their meaning to start off with, I start to feel that vocab is not that great. Whereas if you really look at it, it's not really that big a deal. The only thing I need to work on is making a habit of picking up 3 words a day. That is it. Is the strategy clear to you, or do I need to elaborate on it more? For vocab, apart from reading your word lists, which is a must, great. Another thing is that some of us may start to feel that 3 words is a little too less. So they start to pick up 10 words a day. What I would suggest is 10 words is great as long as you're very clear in your mind that you'll be able to follow up with this on a regular basis. The reason I suggest 3 words is that everything requires effort. You will need to put in effort, you'll need to put in time. So when we say 3 words a day, it will take a certain amount of time. It will take a certain amount of time to go through those 3 words. Once I start to pick 10 words a day, the entire process starts to become a little bit too much for me. I start to get fatigued, and maybe over the period of next 4 to 5 days, I start to lose interest in the activity. So what I particularly suggest is just 3 words a day. That is really going to help you build up your vocab. Make sure you are revisiting the words frequently enough. And apart from that, do keep revisiting the material that is provided to you guys. Another important question is to understand as the reading comprehension is one of the most important areas in the CAT section. Okay, I have a question. Let me just take it up. Subi is asking, opinion on Word Power Made Easy by Normalists. Good book. You may follow it. But the material provided is sufficient enough, and personally what I think is that nothing works like this 3-word strategy. Word Power Made Easy has certain roots, etc. Definitely good if you can take it up. No real issues there. Okay, Chandra is asking, pre-recorded lectures are having good amount of time. There is 6 hours per lecture, which is good. Which will be okay. Basics to be repeated, and personally he says that I do not like any overlap in concepts covered. See, Chandra, again. That is why we suggest that you cover your basics while working on your own. Watch all the videos. Then when you come to the live session, in case there is a particular question or a particular thing that is not very clear to you, particular formula or how did something happen, that is where the faculty's role becomes important. That is where the faculty will be able to help you. And that is how you can really make the best use or the optimum use of the faculty's capabilities to be able to guide you guys. In case you've not worked on your basics, you just come into the lecture and expect the faculty to start teaching you the basics, then that more or less starts to become a waste of your time as well. The purpose starts to get defeated. It was something you guys could have done by yourself, and something that was available to you and you did not make use of. That is the idea, right? So another thing that I was discussing is the reading comprehension, which is a very, very important part in all the verbal sections. One thing which is going to be the game changer apart from vocab is the reading habit. As far as the verbal section is concerned, nothing works like a good reading habit. It is very important to understand, say for example, there is the reading comprehension section itself. RC is just a test, right? RC is a test of a particular skill, and that skill is reading. For most of us, one of the biggest problems or the biggest drawbacks that we have in our strategy is we are too busy solving reading comprehensions that we do not spend enough time reading. It's very important. The skill being tested is reading. So make sure you guys are spending at least an hour and a half a day as a habit reading things. When I say reading things, newspapers are a must, definitely yes. But another thing which is very important and cannot be negated is the importance of reading novels. Why do you guys think reading novels is very important and something that cannot be outdone by newspapers? Any responses? Why do you guys think that is? Nitin is saying novels are interesting, definitely. Complex sentence structures are made easy, yes. Use of larger vocab. Vocab is something that as far as I think, a good newspaper like the Hindu will also be able to give you that. Something, novels are lucid, okay. Something which cannot be, rejected or denied is that there are questions like, what is the tone of the author in an RC? Questions which are theme based, the main idea. If we've been reading newspapers and novels enough, we understand that newspapers are primarily factual. It's a lot more about facts being stated, and there is no real tone or the sense of story being built or an environment being built by the author. Something that we are more likely to encounter while working on a reading comprehension. Novels are going to help you try and recognize the theme of the author. The author starts to build situations, starts to create moods, and that is something that novels will help you with, and something that extensive reading of the newspaper may not be able to do. I do not say that we need not read newspapers. Newspaper reading is a must, definitely yes. But at the same time, I must also make a habit to go through at least 20 to 25 pages of a good novel a day. That is to say, at least an hour and a half of reading a day as a habit. Verbal section cannot be improved overnight. It is not like quant, that 2 plus 2 equal to 4, everything is black and white. It is a gradual process, will take time. We need a lot of patience, we need a lot of good habits. So ideally what I suggest while starting out is to make a habit right from today itself, to make sure you guys are spending an hour and at least an hour and a half of reading a day. Work on those 3 words vocab strategy, work on your assignments, make it a habit, attend the lectures, ask your doubts and get yourself to the next level. Work in a very coherent and structured manner. Plan it out for yourself, guys. Okay, Ravi is discussing diversity of content that is available. Ravi has mentioned a very good point, something that I'd like to elaborate on. Suppose there are 2 pages in the newspaper, and I give you guys to read 2 pages. One is the sports page, another is the business page. Now, barring people from the business background or the economics background, which page do you think you're going to be more comfortable reading? And this page that is going to take less of a time while reading. Which is that page? Navneet is mentioning sports. Definitely, even when I was preparing, for me also it was sports. Sports it is. Now the next question that I'd like to ask you guys is, why do you think you'd be more comfortable reading sports vis-a-vis the business page? Why is that so? Abhishek has mentioned interest. Very, very relevant. Yes. Less technical terms. No terms unknown to us. Okay, great. Very rightly pointed out by a few people. Yes, interest is one area. One thing which is the determining factor. Another thing is, it is something we've been doing it for years. We've been reading the sports page ever since we were very young. Whereas page on the business page was something we always rejected or did not even look at. What happens is that in a CAT exam, it is not very clear that the area from which the the reading comprehension is likely to come. And moreover, if you try and analyze, a chance of an RC on economy is higher as compared to a chance of the RC on the sports. So while preparing, I need to make sure that I work on different areas that are not very familiar to me, areas that I'm not very comfortable reading, and try and make myself familiar with a lot of different terms, the basic terminologies. Like for example, economy, if I talk about, I need to know what is GDP, what is per capita income, what is a capitalist economy, so that the moment I come across an RC and these terms are mentioned, they are not very new to me, and I start to make sense and get the context that the author is trying to build up. Something that will not happen if there is no diversity in reading. Having said that, Bullseye will also help you develop your diversity through various reading comprehension material that will be available to you guys, and will also help you to know the basic terminologies of various different subjects like philosophy, psychology. We will make sure that you guys know at least the basics, so that when an RC on such subjects is there in the exam, we at least tend to get the overview. We need not be masters in that, but we need to be able to get an overview and understand the context that the author is trying to build. So it is very important from your end to read as diverse a material as possible. Make yourself familiar with a lot of different areas, and while I say that make yourself familiar with a lot of different areas, one thing that becomes very important is the Saturday-Sunday supplements of the newspapers. Make sure you guys are spending time with the Saturday and Sunday supplements of the newspaper. That is where you start to find diversity in newspapers. Monday to Friday, it's pretty much the same, which is there, which is great. But then Saturday, Sunday supplements cannot be ignored. Is the importance of reading novels clear to you? Can we start picking up good novels? Okay, Abhishek is asking for a routine. Abhishek, as far as the verbal section is concerned, that is something that I can take care of. For verbal section, the routine should ideally be at least an hour of reading a day, 15 minutes for vocab, and then solve the exercises and the material that is available to you for attending lectures. That should be good enough for the verbal section a day. But do not discount the importance of reading at any cost. Make it a habit. Get into right habits, guys. That is something that is really going to be the determining factor. And another thing is, do not keep monitoring your process every 10 days. Verbal section does not work like that. Initially, you will need to have faith. Initially, you will need to start spending time. And once you've done this for a period of month or month and a half regularly, that is where the differences or the real improvements start to become visible. It will not be visible prior to that. So let's not get demotivated unnecessarily that I am not improving. Have I answered your query? Okay, Abhishek, great. Now, any other questions you guys would like to ask before I ask you guys a few questions? I'm waiting in case you guys have any questions. Okay, Sushant is asking, is it beneficial to read in the morning or any time of the day I feel like? Okay, Sushant, one thing which is important to ensure is that reading is being done. Time of the day does not matter so much initially because we do not have a habit of reading. Whatever time of the day you find convenient, make sure you're putting in the hours, make sure you're picking up stuff. And initially I suggest to always pick something that is interesting to you, because if you initially pick up something that is not very interesting to you, that interest will never be developed and you're more likely to do away with reading rather than making it a habit. Time of the day, not really a concern. Okay, Dhruv is asking, what is the best way to analyze a mock test performance? Dhruv, apart from the test analysis that will be available to you guys, something that needs to be done on your end as far as a mock test analysis is done, that once you have the results and you know the questions that are wrong in the test, make sure you're spending time thinking that when you marked the question wrong, when you marked an answer wrong, what was your thought process? Was it a lapse in concentration? Was it something that you did not understand completely, could not reject any options and you ended up marking it? So it is more of a self-analysis. You need to realize what was the problem in the thought process. See, what happens is that there are times when I'm able to zone down a question to maybe 2 options, and then I get one wrong, perfectly acceptable, because under time pressure, that was an educated guess that I made. However, there are times when I had really no idea, and in time pressure I thought that I have attempted less number of questions and I end up marking. That is a big problem. So you need to sit down and realize what was the thought process while you were attempting a question and it ended up being wrong. This is something you need to do on a regular basis, work on it, and not be too concerned about it as in that it has to improve immediately. Everything happens at a subconscious level, but make sure you're registering it regularly and working on it. Have I answered your question? Okay. Jagdish is saying, while practicing, do we need to track the amount of time to solve? One thing which is there is that we cannot be practicing like we're reading for pleasure. So the sense of urgency needs to be maintained. Make sure you decide on the length of the RC. Ideally, a time of 8 to 10 minutes for an RC is good enough. It cannot be a very relaxed attitude, and at the same time, it cannot be something that I will start to work at that speed wherein I'm not making much sense of the material or the comprehension that is provided to me. You need to optimize a good strategy for yourself, work on a good reading speed, and make sure that the sense of urgency is maintained apart from concentration. One of the biggest challenges in a reading comprehension is to maintain that concentration. Concentration is the key. If you have the concentration right, and it is not something that is going to happen overnight or the day you sit for the exam, it is something to be built with habit. Once the concentration is in place, the recall becomes better, the understanding becomes better, and everything starts to work out. With the sense of urgency, work on concentration, try and be aware that you need to concentrate on the work at hand. That is something that is really going to help you as far as the verbal section is concerned. Let me take a few more questions. Chandra is asking that he's getting worse in most of the tone related questions. Is it possible to give the list? Okay, Chandra, the list of tones or the various types of tones and how to handle these questions will be discussed in detail by the faculty once you in the e-lecture that is scheduled on reading comprehension. So you need not worry about that. However, until then, you can visit the Hitbullseye website. You can go through the various videos available on tone-based questions and start to formulate a strategy for yourself. And in case there are still a lot of doubts, make sure that you raise this issue when the faculty is delivering the lecture, because I'm very sure that this concept will be taken by the faculty in detail, as it is one of the most relevant questions for the MBA aspirants. Okay, Vikas is asking, Micah focuses on strategic marketing and communication specifically, while SP Jan on general marketing. Differ and what should be opted for? Micah course and what should be opted for? Because as you've already mentioned, Micah is a little more specific, whereas SP Jan is for general marketing. You need to try and realize wherein your interest lies, for one, and secondly, you also need to make sure that for now you just need to go all out. This is not something you need to think about maybe right now. Right now, just make sure you're working on the basics, you're working on getting there. Once you've got there, then maybe this question starts to become more relevant to you. Depending on whether you want to go into something specific or something general, you've already answered, I think, your question. So make sure you are figuring that out over the course of your time. Okay, Preeti is asking, is it important to brush through grammar essentials from English composition books? Is the perspective of CAT, that is, or all exercises available? Preeti, everything is available with Hitbullseye. You start to visit the material, you start to go through the material, you'll realize that everything that is relevant from an exam point of view. See, when we talk of grammar, there are a lot of rules, there are a lot of material that is there available on various different sources. We need to make sure that we're investing the time in the right area. That is, that if I'm spending time on grammar, that has to be relevant. The chances of it being asked in an exam are high. So everything that is relevant from an exam point of view will be available with Hitbullseye. You need not worry about that. Just go through the videos on grammar. Make sure you're comprehensively going through everything that is available to you, and everything will be taken care of. Grammar is not something to be worried about. However, you do need to spend a certain amount of time on it, and all the material will be available to you on hitbullseye.com. Need not worry about that. Okay, Arun is saying, how much to solve for a topic and start attempting mocks from now on? Arun, maybe 3 classes or 4 classes down the line, you can start taking mocks. I do not suggest you start taking mocks right away, because initially it could work as a bit of a dent in your confidence. But yes, during this time you can work on sectional tests, see where you are in different areas. Once you're done with that, 3 to 4 classes down the line, the RC concept gets covered in the e-lectures. You've done or solved the material. Then start taking mock tests, and I think 1 month down the line is the right time to start taking mocks and try and formulate your strategy accordingly. Again, strategy formulating is going to be a process that is going to take a bit of time. It is not going to be something that you take one test and the strategy gets formulated. So you really need to plan it out accordingly. Okay, yes, the question is, does Bullseye inform all the exam to be opted? Definitely yes. You will get all the information on the WhatsApp groups, on your dashboards. Everything will be intimated to you guys. You will not be kept in the dark, for one. And secondly, all the relevant information will be made available to you. And accordingly you can apply for various colleges. No real problems there. Anything else before we close this session, guys? Anything else you guys would like to ask? I'm waiting for 30 seconds and then we close this session in case you have no further queries. Okay, I see most of us are clear with how the course is likely to proceed. I wish you guys a great preparation time, and I wish all the best. I hope all of you get through to your desired colleges. The only thing is you just need to keep putting in the hours. You just need to get into good habits. All the best, guys. Thank you very much. See you guys in the e-lectures. Thank you.